Afternoon and welcome to this hybrid meeting of Social Services Scrutiny Committee on 29th September 2025. I'm Councillor Helen Clark and I will be chairing this meeting. Before we move on to the next agenda item, I'd just like to welcome our new members, Carol Clement-Williams and Hayley Davis, who is returning to us. And I'd like to thank the officers for arranging the visit to Adveria that we had on Friday. Duplicate members, please note this meeting will be recorded and live streamed. Can you ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting? When asked to raise your hand, can members who are virtually viewing this meeting raise your electronic hand? Members who are in the room, please raise your physical hand. For those members virtually viewing this meeting, please can you keep the chat function for urgent IT issues and not for questions or comments. I wish to remind members signing in remotely of their legal obligation to have their cameras switched on during the meeting, please, in order to be seen and heard while participating in council business. Officers are reminded that they are free to leave the meeting following their item. We are not due to have a fire drill, so should the fire alarm sound during the meeting, please make your way to the nearest exit. For the purposes of the recording, I will hand over to our Democratic Services Officer to confirm attendance in the meeting room. Can we just go around the room and you just introduce yourselves for the benefit of the people on the list there? Go on.
Maria Selby, Principal Officer, Children's Services.
Victoria Smith, Principal Officer, Children's Services.
Chris Owens, Team Manager, Adult Services.
Sarah Jones, Principal Officer, Adult Services.
Angela Thomas, Head of Adult Services.
Afternoon all, Andy Jarrett, on the Director of Social Services, Housing and Community Safety.
Good afternoon all, Pamela Chivers, Democratic Services Officer.
And I've already introduced that. Okay, so we're now moved on to agenda item 2. Are there any declarations of interest? You indicate now if you have.
I can't see any, Chair.
Great, marvellous. Okay, agenda item 3 to consider items from the Cabinet Forward Work Programme. There are no items for consideration. Agenda item 4 to consider items from the Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme. We will now move to consider the reports that are selected by this committee for consideration from the Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme. So that means we'll move to agenda item 4A, and that's the overview of fostering and placement sufficiency. You want to take this, Vic?
Yes, lovely. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Mandar. So I've put together the report around fostering and placement sufficiency, which is to be read in conjunction with the quality of care report for fostering service, which I presented last time I was here. So this report just gives you a little bit more in-depth information around our fostering service, Foster Wales, Neath, Talbot, and also talks to you around different types of fostering arrangements that there are. Gives you a little bit of an insight, I guess, in relation to our recruitment and retention of foster carers. So that's what's very high on our agenda for this calendar year. So we are looking at how we support our carers that we already have, and how we recruit new carers. Talks a little bit about Eliminate and about the transformation projects that we have going forward. So we're in a relatively healthy position in relation to our fostering, but we'll never have enough fostering, and we're always looking to recruit and retain carers. Got a really good retention rate. Usually only the time carers leave is when they retire. But we do have an ageing population of carers as well. So there's, and for those of you who sit on corporate parenting panel with me, we talked about that last week, about some of the ideas we have around recruiting further carers into the service. Again, you've heard me talk about this before, about only those children and young people who need to be looked after are looked after. And part of that is around making sure that we continually review the care plans of those children and young people who are looked after, and support them to have ongoing time with their families. I've briefly touched on unaccompanied asylum-seeking children. I understand there might be a question in respect of that, and there will be a more expansive paper coming towards the end of the year on that. I've given you a little bit of a highlight in relation to the population and placement trends. So as you can see, the first graph on the paper demonstrates where we peaked at very high numbers, and takes you back to 2014. So we've gone from 453 in 2014 down to 221 as of the 8th of September. So you can see how that trend has looked. Then I've also given you a bit of an insight in relation to placement options. So those 221 young people, how are they looked after by us in Neath or Talbot? So it shows you the different options there available, and it gives you the graph. That's something that we monitor as a senior management team on a weekly basis. And as I said, it takes you through the transformation projects, giving you a bit of an insight in how we are looking at being ready for Eliminate, and then recognising the support we're doing around 16 plus young people, and looking at our other options around supported accommodation. And running through, I guess, all of this is around the engagement and participation with children and young people and our carers. So we regularly hold, for those of you, again, who've seen Darren most recently in Corporate Parenting Panel, Darren gives an overview of all of the support he does for children and young people and how their feedback then helps inform our service. We also hold regular consultation events with foster carers as well. I did one of those last week. And again, it's about hearing feedback from them directly about service delivery and any service improvements. That's a bit of a summary, and then if there's any questions.
Thank you. I think Sharon's got the first question.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thanks, Victoria, for that. I know in the last meeting you said you were going to update us a little more perhaps on the elimination for profit agenda, because on page 16 you talk about residential care remaining essential for some and the challenges that that presents. And I wondered what options you'd come up with for this when we do actually have the eliminating profit agenda in place.
Really good question, Councillor Freegard, and I think it's something that's high on our agenda. So what we've done, we've put together an eliminating profit plan. So we've got a working document and we're working plan. We've also put together a pack of information. So Audit Wales come in to audit all 22 local authorities in November, looking at how they all respond, each individual local authority, how they respond to eliminate profit. So I think it'll be useful to bring a paper back following that audit so you can see what that looks like. But I can absolutely share the wider plan. The plan consists of lots of different domains. So it looks at how we look at what the market is going to do. So, for example, we don't know yet what all fostering agencies and residential agencies in the commission market are going to do. Some have made it clear that they intend to move to not-for-profit, some haven't and haven't made a decision in relation to that. So our commissioning team are monitoring the market for what they're going to be doing. We're looking at the recruitment and retention offer, as we said, within fostering, to build up that fostering community. But as you rightfully said, some children will need residential care, and that's accommodation sometimes can be the only option to meet their needs. So we are looking at how we develop that. We're looking at developing, do we have an in-house provision ourselves? There's work across the region as well, looking at regional options to develop services. And also some of these residential providers might move to not-for-profit. So it would mean we would still be able to commission them if they were not-for-profit. So there's a lot of unknowns at this stage, and it is something that is being readily worked through. But I can certainly bring back the working plan that we've got that shows all of these elements in one place. But there are some variables to that. But more than happy to bring back a further plan. We talked about it in the corporate parenting panel, so I'm going to bring it back through there, but then through this committee as well.
Oh, thank you. Can I come back, Chair? Yeah, I just want to say how challenging it is when there are so many variables and we haven't got the answers yet, and we're moving quite quickly towards 2030 in putting something in place that's going to work. And I would also hope that we are expressing our concern from the directors of the authorities about this particular plan to Welsh Government. Okay, thanks, Victoria.
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor Freegard. You're aware that, as I said last time, that we are doing exactly that. The timeframes for this are very challenging, and there are some real risks involved in doing it this quickly. And I think one of the things that I would say is we have resolved now within Neath Talbot that we will have to own our own children's home, whether that's in-sourced and that we own it and run it, or whether actually we ask a third sector organisation to run it on our behalf. We will have to control at least a part of the market, is my belief. I've had a discussion with Kerry Warren, the Head of Children's Services, so just to put a bit of that that planning on the table. So we are planning to either build a residential care home or buy one in before that date comes, so that at least we've got some preparedness around that.
That's really good to hear, Andrew. I'm glad of that. And that's something positive to come out of all this. Thank you for that. Andrew,
Carol.
Can I just ask one more question? Would we have a risk assessment around this process? Would we be doing our own risk assessment about this?
I'll hand over to Victoria because she knows this in a lot more detail than I do, but I'm sure we do.
So it is part of our Children's Services Risk Register, so part of the wider Directorate Risk Register that we've added this on, because it's, you know, it is it's complex and it's difficult, and you know, to working through it, but we have highlighted it as a risk, as you've just said, because there's a huge challenge, isn't it, to do it very quickly in that time frame with so many variables.
Could we have that report added when you've presented to members, Victoria?
Yeah, that absolutely.
Good.
And that is part of, I guess I have a pack around all of Eliminate, and the register is part of that. So absolutely, you can do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol?
Thanks. One comment on what Andrew has just said. I am sceptical on the possible third party outsourcing. I know that we say we'll have controls, etc., but it does seem when we do that, we don't have as much power, if that's the word it's not the word I'm looking for, but we don't have a lot of safeguards around us being able to control it. But that's just my point of view. I've got two questions. Do you want me to ask them both at the same time?
Yeah, go ahead.
So page 11, where we're talking about recruitment and retention, there's comment about perks. Can we have more information about what the perks might be, and what are we doing to safeguard against people joining to just abuse what perks they may get? It'd have to be really good, mind, I would have thought. And then page 15, the pre-adoptive placement, with the temporary placement, it's about concerns there around what are the possible pitfalls with that. Is there risk involved? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, certainly. So when we've had consultation events with our foster carers, we've talked to them about what's important to them, and I guess what makes them stay within local authority fostering and not go to a commissioned fostering agency. We've also looked about what they think would make us an attractive offer, because at the moment we are still competing with commission placements, aren't we? So we are currently putting all of that information together. So some of the things that they've shared, for example, are they'd like us to support more with play schemes, with having access, like special access. If you're a foster carer, you get special access to an activity, etc. So those are the sorts of things that we are looking through as a whole council. So I guess the next step on that would be, we talked about incorporate parenting panel last week, and the next step would be to obviously involve the director in some of that conversation about realistically what can we put in place to support carers, and it'll be for existing carers, and I guess for us to attract new carers to us, because the more we can grow that pool of our in-house carers means we can support more children, young people to stay within their local community, and it's at a, you know, it's got lots of advantages to us, including financial advantages as well. With regards to making sure that we safely recruit, I guess is what I'm hearing from your question. There's a very vigorous process. So anybody who wants to foster has to go through lots of different different parts of a process to do that. So they would make inquiries with us. We do an initial screening of those inquiries, and then we take that through to a really full assessment that can take up to 6 months. So that assessment then looks at all aspects of their lives. It's quite an intrusive assessment. It also, we have references from people. We look if they fostered before. There's like a transfer document that's considered as well. So whether they're, you never know, do you? Some people might come forward for not always the right reasons, but certainly the safeguards are absolutely there, and are really strong safeguards within the fostering community. And then when they're assessed, they have to go through a fostering panel as well, and then be signed off by the agency decision maker as well. So that process is very tight, if that gives you some reassurance around that. I think your question might be 2 separate points. So you raised about the pre-adoptive placement. So that is children and young people who are, their plan is adoption, but until an order goes through, we class it as a pre-adoptive arrangement. So that's what you can see in those figures. And then when the adoption order comes through, they cease to be care experience any longer because that order takes over. With regards to the temporary, I think you're on about the temporary arrangements, which is when I got under other in the placement arrangements. And that sometimes though we might have had relative carers caring for a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, etc., and they might those children might have been there, and then we assess, and they might not meet the fostering competencies, but the children would still be there whilst we were looking at alternative arrangements. So maybe a lesser order, for example, like a child arrangements order or a special guardianship order.
Thanks for that. Thanks, Chair. Obviously, it's my first meeting, so I'm finding my way around social services. So I may be sort of asking some questions that the others will know already. But so sorry if I'm going over old ground. Thanks, Chair.
Oh, you're not. It's no stupid questions, Carol. Right. My question is on page 14 about the unaccompanied asylum-seeking children. It says that many of them express a reluctance to be placed in Wales, particularly in rural areas such as Neath, Talbot, because they want to go somewhere with more multicultural communities. What multicultural opportunities are we offering these children, and how are we supporting what's happening?
Really good question. It's a very difficult area. So a lot of unaccompanied asylum-seeking children don't want to come to Wales at all. They'd much rather stay in London and the surrounding areas there. Some are very reluctant to actually leave Kent where they usually enter the UK. So it is quite difficult, and we are a small part of Wales, aren't we? So if they do come to Wales, they're often asked to be placed in Swansea, in Cardiff or Newport as the big cities, isn't it? Which are more diverse cities. So what we do, we're working it with our partners in Swansea very closely. Swansea has been a city of sanctuary for years, so they've kind of got established links and set up within third sectors as well. But we are linking in very much with them locally for opportunities. So we've made contact with local religious groups. We've made contact with colleges to make sure that we've got supporting them with opportunities to learn English, for example. So there's lots and lots of work going on. There's a big wider group across all of Wales. So there's leads from each local authority across Wales come together, share ideas, share training opportunities. There's lots of training for staff, lots of training for supported accommodation providers, for foster carers, to really look at having a cultural understanding, and then opportunities then for groups. So Darren facilitates a lot of consultation events with young people, where we're listening to their views, and then we are taking that on board and looking at what things that we can put in place. So it's very much a partnership approach to some of this. But some young people, sadly, despite doing all of that, still find it difficult not being in a city centre.
Thank you. Any more questions on this? No? Okay, so this report is for noting. So we move on to the next item, which is 4B, and that's an update on the implementation of magic notes and artificial intelligence. Is that you, Anthony?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Okay, this report's an information item for members. It provides you with an update on the implementation of artificial intelligence, namely magic notes and co-pilot within adult services. Since writing this report, I'm pleased to say that not only we were shortlisted for the APSI Award in Best Innovation, but we actually won the award, beating off 7 other organisations. I'm pleased to introduce Sir Al Jones, who's the Principal Officer responsible for these services, and Chris Owens, the Team Manager who received the award on behalf of Neath Talbot. It's an information item. It sets out some of the time saved by using it. I'm just happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you. I think Heath's got a question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On the report, you're saving 7 to 12 hours per week, and I think my glass will be better, right? What I'm going to ask now is the job security long term? Are the jobs still okay for the staff?
Well, you're right to ask that question, Councillor Davis. We're currently piloting implementation of AI across adult services with the intention of this becoming mandatory from April next year. I think it's probably too early at this point in time to talk actual job losses, because I think the world of AI is moving very quickly. However, we would be more likely talking about the vacancy management rather than job losses anyway, so we wouldn't be talking in redundancy terms. But I will caveat that by saying that this committee is all too aware of the budgetary pressures facing adult services. So we will continue to challenge ourselves as we implement this, as we have to, as we deliver adult services moving forward. So it's not an actual yes or no. I think we're just a moving feast and we'll monitor it as we go along.
Okay, so if people retire or leave, then you won't be taking any more staff on, that sort of thing, is it?
That's exactly how we look at it, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, if I can just come in there as well, I think some of my views. So I think artificial intelligence is here to stay. So we can't put it back in its box. It's here and it's developing very quickly at the moment. So it is really important that we're at the forefront in East Port Talbot, especially around social services, around how we might use that better. What I would be interested in is what is the workforce we need for the future? So it won't be the same. I don't think in 10 years' time we'll have the same workforce that we've got now. Does that mean less people or does it mean the same number of people? Well, I'm not sure. But certainly they'll need different skills. And I think our job will be to make sure that those workers have the skills that they actually need in order to work in a digital world, whether we like that or not.
So any other questions on that? Okay, that report is for noting as well. So to agenda item 5, performance monitoring. We haven't got any items for consideration today. Agenda item 6, selection of items for future scrutiny. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Just to let you know of some changes to the Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme. There's quite a few, so I'll take them month by month. There was a report that was due to come to today's meeting. Sorry, can you all hear me? Yeah. Great. There was a report, impact of research on prevention and early intervention, that was due to come today. That report will be rescheduled another time because the research isn't available at the moment. The 30th of October meeting, at the request of the Chair, the committee will receive a report on welfare rights. You'll all be aware that an additional scrutiny meeting has been scheduled for the 25th of November, and the following update reports have been moved from October to November. Those are the update on refugees, asylum seekers, and those with special status, and unaccompanied asylum seeking children. So that's the 25th of November. The 11th of December, again with the approval of the Chair, we will receive the following reports: Social Services, Health and Housing Director's Annual Report and Budget Monitoring Report for 25-26. 22nd of January, the Q2 Corporate Performance Monitoring will come to January meeting, that's moved from December. And then the 5th of March, with the agreement of the Chair, we have 3 reports added: Social Services Complaints Annual Report, Permission to Remodel and Tender Housing Funded Homelessness Floating Support, and a report on sources of income generation for the 3 service areas. So unless members have any questions regarding the forward work programme, I've checked, there's no changes to the cabinet forward work programme to the one that's in your agenda pack. I'll hand back to the chair, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 7, urgent
Chair.
items.
Chair, I do have my hand raised.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Carol.
That's okay. Can I just ask or make a comment? Do you know the report in future? Could we possibly have the yellow block in a different colour? Only because on our iPads, when we put notes on or we highlight something, it's the same colour, and it's just so much easier to see it if you haven't got to sort of weed out the report with the yellow in. Would that be okay?
Yeah, is that the cabinet report where I highlight it, councillor? Highlight just our committee items. Yeah, I can do it in different colour.
Yes, page 25 it is, that table there, they're all highlighted in yellow. If you could possibly make it a slightly a different colour, please. Thank you.
Yes, okay, yeah, I'll note that. Thank you, councillor.
Okay, thank you. So we now need to consider the private items included on the agenda. As you can see on the agenda, the private paragraph is there for everyone to read. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder to move into private?
I'll move, Chair.
Thank you.
Can I just ask if a member is prepared to second that, please?
I'll second, Chair.
A second.
Everybody. Okay, can I ask that any public or press in attendance now exit the meeting and the recording be stopped?
You can just bear with me, Chair, and I'll just confirm those, that everything's stopped. Bear with me.